Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's topic is going to be what is the important information that you should be putting into your CV. We're going to go through this at length, so stay tuned for all the information that you need to know. So firstly, this is one of the main questions that I get a lot from a lot of graduates, just with regards to how do I put together my CV, what information is relevant and what isn't. So one thing I want you to have in mind is that as you put together your CV, make sure that it represents you well, right? It's the first thing that recruiters see before they even get to meet you. And the purpose of your CV is to make sure you're getting an interview. So the information you're going to put on your CVs is very important, because at the end of the day, as recruiters are looking through many different CVs, what are you going to do to make yours stand out, right? And so I've seen a lot of people make many mistakes on their CV in terms of the types of information they put in, the types of information they leave out. And sometimes that's what actually prevents you from getting that interview that you so want to get. So I'm going to speak through a couple of topics. I'm going to try to go through it a bit systematically and just give you the high level tips in terms of what it is you need to put in your CV and why. One thing I want you guys to be mindful of is that your CV really needs to be a true and honest representation of yourself. Never lie in your CV or try and make your CV look a lot more attractive, because if you do get called for an interview based on the CV that you've put together and they ask you questions about what you've put in there that you cannot really justify, it looks a lot worse than just having put in the information that really speaks to who you are and what your experience has been. Typically, recruiters only have a couple of seconds to make up their mind as to whether they want to read further in your CV or not. I'm going to put together another video that speaks to the template of your CV and what looks more attractive. But for this video in particular, we're just going to focus on the detail that you need in your CV, and I'm going to go through it section at a time. So the first thing that should appear on your CV is obvious. It's your name and your surname, right? Not important if you've got 3 names. Don't put all 3 names in your surname. Put your most preferred name that you go by. Use that and your surname. Make sure that it's big, that it's bold, that it's visible, so that we know at any given point in time whose CV we're looking at. The second section that we look at is your contact information, your personal information. In this section, what's important for you to always have is your contact details. Please make sure that your contact details are correct. The worst thing is having a CV in front of me, wanting to contact the individual, and it either goes engaged or there's 1 digit missing. Make sure that your contact details are there in full and they are correct. The next thing that's important to put on is your full email address. Once again, make sure the spelling is correct, so that if we do email you about an opportunity or we email you about an upcoming interview, that we are emailing the right person and that you are getting your emails as well. Lastly, on there, important to put your address. It doesn't have to be your full address, but at least understanding which area you live in, which province you're living in. That's important, because I think that also helps us understand if we are calling you for a face-to-face interview, are you able to travel in? Where are you actually based? Are you looking for a role in the Joburg region, in the Durban region, in the Cape Town region? So putting your address really helps us understand geographically where you're from, and that's something that's important to put in your contact information. The next section that's important to put into your CV is an overview of yourself, or a summary of yourself, so your professional summary. And what this is really just 2 to 3 sentences about what you're studying, which university you go to, what are some of the best qualities that make you stand out as an individual, and also highlighting what it is you are hoping to attain by applying to this particular company. So the reason why this section is important is because it gives us a little bit of a snapshot into you. So as opposed to just kind of looking at where you've studied, looking at the experience you've had, it gives us a little bit of a sense of who you are as a person. And that's why it's important to always highlight what some of your key qualities are. Try and make sure that you're not speaking to very generic kind of words. So things like, I'm hardworking, I'm a committed individual, because those things, anyone can say them, right? And it's not something that differentiates you. The next section that's important is the education summary. So this is where you get to detail the university that you go to, the qualification that you are studying, and also the high school that you've gone to. So the first thing we look at as we go into education, I don't want to see the first thing as your high school that you went to. I want to see where you're currently studying. Always start with current. So you'll have education up there, then you'll go to, if you're doing a postgraduate degree, you start with that. You say, I'm at this particular university doing a postgraduate degree in ABCD from this year to that year, right? That's what you put first. Then the next thing is your undergraduate, and the last thing is your high school. So always make sure that the information that you give us is the most relevant first, and then it trickles down from there. Something I want you to be mindful of as you are putting the section together, make sure that the dates that you give us or the years that you give us correlate with the years that you actually attended school. I see a lot of graduates putting there the year that they're going to graduate, which then throws things off a little bit, because if you're expecting to see someone that's done a degree for 3 years and you're seeing that they're starting in a particular year and ending 4 years later, it then questions why, what happened? Did they fail a particular year? Did they not? Put the year that you started and the year that you are ending in terms of your attendance at university. Always be clear on the university you're going to, write it in full. Make sure also that as you stipulate the discipline or the degree that you are studying, highlight to us what your key majors are. Okay, I see a lot of people putting too much detail in the education section where they write out all the different courses that they are doing and the subjects that they are doing. And it's not important to put that there. That's why we have your academic transcript as something that we look to and part of a lot of the documents that you put together for your application. So make sure that you are keeping it short and to the point, like I said. University, degree, majors, and make sure your years are correct. From a high school perspective, do exactly the same thing. You put down the name of the school that you went to and put down the year in which you completed your high school qualification. Next section after this is your career summary. So a lot of you that are still at university do not have a career summary section or an experience section. So what I suggest you do for this particular section is to highlight for us what are some of the extracurricular activities that you do at university. So in my previous video where I spoke about the university mindset, you'll understand the importance of having had extracurricular activities. So whether you have been part of any leadership positions, volunteering, any part of societies, or even if you've worked part-time in between the time that you were at school, those are some of the sections that you put there. And the same thinking applies. You put the most recent thing that you've done and then you go backwards from there. Some of the things you include in your extracurricular activities could be things around internships that you've been a part of, vacation programs that you've taken part in. You could also include things around the different societies you've been a part of at university, and any leadership positions that you've also attained in the time that you've been at university. You can also put down volunteering opportunities, and also if you were a tutor, great to always put that down there as well. So these are just some of the examples that you could put down in your experience section, and that can give us a little bit more sense of what it is you've been involved in at university, and also give us a snapshot as to the type of person that you are and what you've loved doing in your spare time. As a recruiter, when I look through that section, I want to see the highlights of what it is that you've been doing and a very small 1 or 2 sentence around your involvement in that. So please don't write long sections around what it is you did during that time, because once again, if we're trying to keep it to 1 page, this is something that's going to take up a lot of space and it's unnecessary. For those of you that have had part-time work and maybe have worked before doing your new qualification, it's important always, as you think through your career summary section, to make sure that you are detailing the most relevant information. Be clear always in your career section on the dates. It's important for us to know the month in which you started and the year, and the month in which you resigned and the year. Lastly, for me, in this particular section, always a great opportunity for you to highlight any key achievements that you have personally achieved in the role that you've been in. It's always important to make sure that people know what it is you've achieved. If you were put on a project that was highly successful and you were someone that was leading that project, make sure that you make note of that, because those are the things that are going to set you apart from anyone else that's doing a similar job at a different company. So make sure that if there's any notable achievements that you can mention from the particular company that you worked for, then put it in there. And if you don't have anything notable at this point in time, make sure that as you work in any organization, you're always setting goals for yourself and always making sure that you are working towards attaining a particular goal, so that this is something that once again can speak for you and set you apart. Another thing that I think is important for students to put into their CVs is key achievements. So it's important for you to highlight if you've had any key and significant achievements while you're at university, whether you were a golden key member, whether you're on the dean's list, whether you came first, second, third in a particular competition, or whether you were nominated for a highly sought after opportunity. These are key things, once again, that are going to differentiate you from the next person. So make sure to highlight some of your key achievements here. Always the section around skills and competencies, which I think, depending on the role and the industry that you are going into, can either be relevant or not so relevant. For those of you that are particularly in IT, important for you to be able to speak to some of the software that you are well versed in and that you have operated on, and you know you've got a certain level of proficiency in. So that, I think, is important to put in. But I also wanted to take an opportunity to just show you guys the different types of words that can be used for the skills section. So you'll see on the left we've got soft skills, you'll see on the right we've got hard skills. Hard skills are really, once again, some of those technical aspects, so where you have learned a particular technical skill. So that's why you'll see things like computer software, design, data analytics, mathematical kind of thinking. Those are things that you would have gained from learning a particular skill, whether it be through university or through experience. On the soft skill side, you'll see these are some of the things that maybe come through as some of your characteristics or skills that you've learned based on things that you've done. I see too many students just putting down words like hardworking, words like committed, and some of those words, you need to be able to put down things that you know are a skill that you've gained through something that you have done. Because if you put down something like teamwork, but you've never worked in teams, you don't even play a team sport, then why is it there and how have you gained the skill, right? If you're putting words down like problem solving, be able to demonstrate to us what you mean by problem solving. How have you used it? How do you know that this is a skill of yours? So I really recommend that you don't just put down any sort of skill. Think about what it is that you do on a daily basis, of what type of skill you've learned throughout the time that you've been at university and through any other extracurricular activities that you've done. Then lastly, there's the reference section. The reference section, I think, is important if you have had prior work experience. But generally, in my experience, a lot of graduates, we don't necessarily do referencing for them, because the understanding is that you're coming straight out of university and you're coming into the corporate world for the first time. So there's not a lot of experiences that you can maybe reference and that we can go back to. So not important if you haven't had any work experience, but obviously if you have, it's a great way to be able to put it there should the recruiter need to contact someone to get a reference on your performance. Guys, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Looking forward to the next video, guys. Please always comment if there's anything that you want to see more of, if there's any detail that you want me to go more in depth on in other videos that are still to come. Looking forward to hearing more from you guys and wishing you a great week.